We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we dive into the art of songwriting, celebrate the artists behind the music and explore the stories that bring their songs to life. I'm your host Simon Fink, and as always, thank you for joining us. Our guest today on the podcast is the incredibly talented jasmine.4.t. The Manchester-based singer-songwriter recently released her breathtaking debut album, You Are the Morning, which was put out on Phoebe Bridgers' own Saddest Factory Records. This debut is a gorgeous yet at times heartbreaking collection of songs that explore themes of queer friendship, trans love, and Jasmine's own deeply personal journey as a trans woman. Recorded in Los Angeles in late 2023, You Are the Morning was produced by none other than the boygenius trio themselves, Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, and Julien Baker. With the help of her all-trans band, Jasmine has crafted a record that not only resonates emotionally, but sonically captures the raw beauty of her songwriting. Now, in today's episode, we chat with jasmine.4.t to discuss the making of You Are the Morning and what it was like collaborating with the boygenius crew. We dive into her songwriting process, the emotional depth of this record, and the powerful impact it has already had on the trans community worldwide. We also chat about manifesting an Australian tour and putting it out into the universe that we need to see jasmine.4.t on Australian shores as soon as possible. Now, we want to say a massive thank you to Dave for his help with today's episode and remind everyone that You Are the Morning is out right now, wherever you get your music. You'll find links in the show notes to purchase the record, follow Jasmine on her socials, and keep up to date with all her latest news. While you're there, don't forget to follow us on our socials and subscribe to the podcast. It truly does help. Now, let's get into it. Here is our conversation with Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, jasmine.4.t. Jasmine, hello. How's it going?
Hiya. Yeah, good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming to spend some time with us on the podcast today and have a chat about this wonderful new record that is out at the moment. It is called You Are the Morning. It's a gorgeous record. Firstly, congratulations on this. How are you feeling with it now out in the world and being shared amongst people worldwide?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's amazing. It's wild. Like, this has been such a long time coming. Like, we recorded this in the first 2 weeks of December 2023. So it's like, you know, officially kind of 2 years later, well, but one and a bit. But it's like, it's amazing just seeing the response it's had. Like, there were like some changes to the rollout schedule, which was kind of fine because it meant I got to like release a whole bunch of singles last year, and I feel like those singles were so well received and like they obviously meant so much to so many people. The record is like all songs that I wrote very early in my transition, and they're about experiencing trans love for the first time, and street violence and mental health issues and homelessness. So all of the things I was going through that a lot of trans people go through. And it's just really nice to have people out there like saying that this is resonating with them and like how important it has been to people. And then like I feel like the singles that we put out were a really good representation of like the album as a whole, but it's amazing seeing like people's responses to the album and people's interpretations of the album and like how much it's meant to so many people and how well it's been like critically received. It's so wild. I was like never expecting this. So thank you for being a part of that.
Not at all. Like, more than happy to be. And I do want to touch on the critical acclaim that is coming to the album in the last few weeks since it's been released. But I do want to touch on something very quickly. You mentioned, obviously, it seems to be resonating with the trans and with the queer community as well, which I think is really lovely. Obviously, unfortunately, at this time in 2025, it is a somewhat difficult / dark timeline to be in the trans community, with things going around, going on in the world, in the US and the UK, and starting to see things here in Australia, unfortunately. And this is a beautiful collection of songs that and I can only say this from a cis white man perspective, but it seems to be a beautiful kind of like a guiding light almost, or like a representation of like things simply won't be cast aside, or that I don't know how to articulate it in a more stronger way, that I feel like it was almost delayed for a purpose to have a shining light during those difficult times, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, fully. I mean, when we were recording this album, there were so many moments when we kind of knew what we were doing, and it kind of dawned on us, like the backdrop politically that we were recording the album in, and that we would be releasing the album under. And it's just like it is a kind of a success story. Like it is kind of like this. I feel like I can be this like beacon of hope to people who are going through what I was going through in those times, because like coming to this point where I'm now like healed from those horrible experiences and able to like exist as a trans woman in the world, like tour the world with my trans woman band. And like this album was produced by Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, and Julien Baker, which are like three of the hugest names in music right now, which is incredible. And I'm obviously huge fans of theirs. But mainly just like I have found my people. I am in trans community, and I am like happier than I've ever been in my life. And like I think that's very obvious to people who meet me now and who come to see me perform. And obviously I'm furious with what's going on in the world right now. And I think, you know, that can never be understated, like the horrors that trans people are going through. And like I'm like a very privileged trans person, but like the laws that are being like written in the US, you know, probably wouldn't have that much effect on me, but will have a huge effect on people like trans prisoners, trans homeless people, trans people in hospitals. Like there are so many like multiply oppressed trans people who are just, their lives are just going to be completely destroyed and probably ended by these laws. Like it's horrific. And then like over in the UK, we've had Wes Streeting, who has written in this law to ban trans children from getting emotional, from using puberty blockers, which are still allowed for cis children and have been used for decades and have been proved safe. And it's just part of this like hysteria and scaremongering around like transness, and it's ridiculous because like as we know, trans people have always existed and will always exist, and trying to sort of pretend otherwise and to like scare people about trans people is just ridiculous. It's unrealistic. The vast majority of the world supports trans people and knows trans people and loves trans people, and that's my experience of like going out around Manchester, which is, you know, a particularly safe place for trans people. But like, just like most people you chat to aren't like Donald Trump and aren't like Wes Streeting, you know? And you know, it's just a very loud and powerful minority. But unfortunately, they're creating the conditions that we're living in. And so, yeah, those specific events that I've mentioned there all happened, obviously, after the album was recorded. But, you know, even just like going over to the US and with a group of trans women and recording, even though it was like LA, which is like, again, a very safe place for trans people to be, it was very scary. We were scared, like, but like we were being greeted by Phoebe and Lucy and Julien and several other trans people who were recording on the record. And yeah, it was like a wonderful and healing and safe environment. And yeah, for example, that was this beautiful moment when, so on the last couple of tracks on the record, we have the trans chorus of Los Angeles singing.
Yes.
And that was recorded on the final day of recording, and we booked out Studio A at Sound City, which is like this enormous live room, which is so beautiful. It's so iconic, and so many incredible records have been recorded there. Like Fleetwood Mac have recorded there, Nirvana have recorded there. Like, it's just like the most iconic place in music history. And then to like fill that space with trans people, it just felt like so magical. And like I say, in the context of like the world that we were recording it in, it did feel really emotional and overwhelming. There was a moment where Phoenix, my collaborator from Manchester, another trans woman, she was leading the choir, and I just like, it was just hearing their voices like fill the room, and I just like turned to Lucy, and Lucy had tears in her eyes, and it was just, we all felt the weight of what we were doing. And I think, there are these lines in Elephant which say like, look at this, it's all for you. And like, when I was writing that, I was like in this horrible box room full of black mold in the south of Manchester, writing about my first trans love. So I was like dolling myself up, and that's what the this was. And going over to my trans love's house, and that was who the you was. But I think when all of those people were singing those words, it meant something completely different. It was like, look at this moment in history where we are creating trans hope in spite of everything. And you as the listener, who's maybe a queer person who needs that hope, or a trans woman who's just discovering her identity. And that's really how it's been received. And people have like put these interpretations on songs in ways that I never imagined. Like, people have asked me if a certain song, which I wrote pre-transition, New Shoes, is about transition. And I had never thought about it, but I think it is. Like, I think that, I was so deep in the closet at that point, but I was still writing about my feelings of dysphoria, and certain lyrics are definitely about that. So it's like the response has sort of woken me up to things as well. But yeah, like it really has meant so much to so many people. Like, I did an Instagram post 1 week after the album came out of just like some of my favorite DMs from trans people around the world. And honestly, like, it just means so much to me to like, just to see how much this has helped people, and how it's helped people like discover themselves, like or to come to terms with their own transness. And that's just like such a beautiful and incredible thing, and I feel like incredibly privileged to have the power to do that.
It is an absolutely stunning record. So I can only imagine the kind of almost like ripple effect that it is having within the community. And in terms of even people outside of the community, I know I've spoken to a number of people who have had some form of emotional response to this record. Me, myself, I'm not going to lie, later on in my notes for today's interview, I was going to ask about New Shoes, because that was the track that I found, having a listening to the record, a few times. That was the one I kind of kept coming back to and then getting caught up on. And then I think at the end of the recording as well, you can also hear yourself and possibly one or two others getting a little bit choked up on that song as well, because it's obviously a very powerful song.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a song that I wrote about the relationship that became my marriage at the start of that relationship. And it appeared in like a different form on my debut EP in 2019. Mm-hmm. And it was, it was always like kind of an emotional song. It's about like it was about my disability. I have ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, and it was about sort of my struggles with that versus my desire to start a family, in spite of that. And then I performed it on tour with Lucy Dacus. We toured Europe together for her second album, Historian. And that was one of Lucy's favorite songs on that tour. And Lucy was like, "Oh, I would really love to re-record this for your album." And I was like, at the time I was going through the divorce, and I was like, I don't think I can do that. I really don't think I can do that. It would just be too painful. It would be too difficult. But over time, it kind of grew on me, and I felt like if I was singing it now, it wouldn't be about the same thing. It would be about like forging a chosen family, in spite of everything that I was going through. And that's how I sort of went into it in the recording studio. But I still couldn't get through like a full take. Honestly, I just kept thinking about my dog that I lost in the divorce, and it was just heartbreaking. And I just broke down on it every single take. But they just like kept the last one in. And that's like, the take as it was. And at the end I was crying, and my bandmates Phoenix, Rosie Manis, and Eden O'Brien came into the vocal booth and held me, and then Lucy and Phoebe and Julien came in as well and just all held me, and it was a very like beautiful and healing moment of like being reminded of this beautiful and safe and healing environment that I was in now. And that's the context that I was recording these songs in. And so that's why we left that piece of audio in. Like, I remember Lucy giving an editing note, like we should cut that bit out after the sessions. But I was like, no, I think that bit is actually really important because it reminds the listener that like, yes, things suck, and yes, like grieving is like a huge part of this. But also, like, there is so much hope in finding your people.
100%. It's a really special moment, and I think that little part, with no disrespect to the lovely Lucy Dacus, is that it's almost, there's a bit of like a tension and almost like audible and palpable emotion in that song. And so when you do hear the little breakdown at the end, I think it is also like a thing for the listener to almost like a breather in terms of, oh, that is all right. Like it is something that is being experienced by the songwriter and the artist themselves. I think it's a really incredible, magical moment. So I'm glad that it did obviously make the cut that it is on the record.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether you might be able to share with us, Jasmine, we're primarily like a songwriting podcast. I know that we're talking about the new record today, wondering whether you might be able to share with us, I guess, your introduction to songwriting and how you got started in writing your own music and writing your own lyrics.
Yeah. So I got my first guitar when I was in the second year of school. I was like 7, I want to say. And my uncle sadly died by suicide and left his guitar to me. And my dad bought me a couple of chord books. I think I had like an Elvis Presley chord book and like I remember having a Jimi Hendrix chord book that I loved. I really loved Jimi Hendrix as a child. And but I just wrote alongside everything, and I never really saw like playing other people's songs and making your own music as that separate, I think. And I remember, the first song I wrote, or one of the first songs I wrote when I was a kid, was just like this incredibly emo song. I think probably about my uncle's death, and I think like I've always just used music as a way to process like the things that happen in life, like, you know, whether they're sad things or happy things or whatever. It's like it's just always been like writing a diary for me, and it's always been like a huge part of my resilience and my stability, you know. And I try to write a song every day. I think this week has been tough. I definitely haven't kept up with it this week, being release week and all, but it honestly, I have realized, and I think like this is probably true for like so many queer and trans people, but I just became so much more open and creative and just like prolific when I came out, like when I accepted myself for who I was, ultimately, and wasn't trying to hide anything. And I felt just like that honesty and that acceptance is a huge part of songwriting, for anyone, you know. I recently did Adrian Linker's School of Song course, which was incredible. And this is, something that she says very explicitly is just like, it's very important to start songwriting from this place of honest description of, you know, whether that's like introspective or like the description of the corner of your room or whatever, but you have to just like accept things for like how they are, how you perceive them, and try and be specific about it. And I think that's something that I've really like tried to, since then, but I think also like before that, I've really tried to like to do is just to really try to capture like the essence of strong emotions, and it you know, it's never been like a thing of like, oh, I'll write the tune and then I'll write the words. It's just like this. I feel like when you have a strong emotion, it's already like a song inside you, and you just need to just like really grab it. And I usually just like write by I just like set my voice memos in my phone, just recording. And you know, it can be when I'm like walking around town or in the shops, or like often it'll be like when I'm driving, and I'll just like talk and sing about what I'm feeling, and often I'll cry while I'm doing that, and and then when I get home, I try to sort of, you know, shape it into a structure, and, you know, set a guitar part to it, and think about, you know, genre and things like that. But I think, you know, those things are kind of not essential to the song. I think the song is the voice memo in my phone. Do you know what I mean? That's like, that's like the root of the tree. And I think that's the, you know, the essential thing that I want to capture in every performance of the song, whether it's in the studio or on the stage. And it doesn't necessarily need to be about those circumstances. Is something that I've realized a lot. Like I said, with, you know, the look at this, it's all for you. That can mean so many things, but I think it's a feeling more than anything, and the feeling is independent of the circumstances. And I think for that reason, I'm not precious about, you know, this is the precise version of this song, and this is the precise, you know, exact correct version of this song that, you know, and I you know, playing a song the same way twice feels a bit icky to me. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, a song is like a reflection of where you are now multiplied by the feelings that you were feeling when you wrote it. And I think I think, you know, when you see a performance and maybe the guitar solo is the same as it was on the record, you feel a bit cheated. Do you know what I mean? You feel like, I thought that was from the heart. You didn't play that from the heart.
Yeah, it's a very fine line to obviously have that expectation as a fan, but then obviously you, as the artist, you don't want to be creating carbon copies of the same thing. You want it to be authentic to you as well.
Yeah, fully. I think, you've hit the nail on the head there. And I think that's like a huge part of this record, You Are the Morning, is like that authenticity. And I was a bit worried about losing that because of working so collaboratively. You know, Julien and Lucy and Phoebe all had such huge impacts on how the record turned out. And it was just like, it was a bit scary because, like, although like me and Lucy were close friends, I didn't know Julien and Phoebe that well before we went into the studio together. But, you know, I really trusted them, and I'm so glad that I did, because like what we came out with was, you know, something that I never could have created by myself. But also I think they really like matched my energy in terms of, we need to capture this essence. And they added so much to that as well. So yeah, no, I think you are right. Like, that authenticity is key.
I know I kind of keep saying this, and even before we were recording, in terms of how much of a fan of this record that I am. So I am sorry that I kind of keep complimenting it. In terms of taking this record out onto the road, I know that yourself and the band have a number of dates lined up with one Lucy Dacus, I think in April and in May, which is very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're coming back to the UK and Ireland and doing some dates, and then we're doing various festivals, some of which are to be announced, mostly around Europe. And yeah, a very exciting live year in general. I am hoping to make it to Australia. I'm manifesting that. And so yeah, we will see down the line. But yeah, please do watch this space, because I think I'm manifesting for exciting news coming soon. That's what I will say.
Terribly excited just even at the thought of that, and happy to manifest with you in terms of let's do whatever we need to do, put it out into the universe to get yourself and the band here in Australia, because I know that there's quite a loving queer and trans community, and music fans as well, who would just love to come and see this album be played live. For you, is there a certain track off the record that you're looking forward to playing live, or that's kind of your favourite at the moment in terms of in that live space?
Oh, that's a good question. I really love playing Elephant live. I really love playing Elephant live because I feel like the way that the audience reacts to Elephant, it really feels like everyone's on the same page. And, you know, that's one of the songs where people have responded to me, like, you know, saying, oh, you've captured something here that I've never heard captured in this way before, and thank you. And, like, that's meant so much to me. And I see that, like, in the faces of the other trans women in the room when I perform that song. And like, that's beautiful to me. But then also just like, I love shredding. I'm like, I think I love rock music, and I was, you know, always in like rock bands and punk bands growing up, and and that's like a heavy one, and we play it pretty heavy when we play it live. Like we change it up every time. And like recently we did something where we like just added a whole new section to the end of the song that was just like the same but like at half the tempo, and it was just so heavy. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I feel like that's always like a really, really fun moment in the set. There is a song that's not on the album that I really love playing live that was going to be on the album. It's called Did You Know? And it's actually, so most of the songs on the album are about my first T for T relationship, trans for trans relationship. And Did You Know is like a song that I wrote close to the end of that relationship. And it's like, it's intense, it's so heavy, and it's so much fun to play live. And it's always like an audience favorite, and I'm very gutted that we didn't get to put it on the record for that reason. But yeah, again, manifesting that soon we'll be able to put that out into the world. But yeah, you'll have to come see that live, I guess.
Please. We'll be sharing all your live dates in today's podcast notes. So hopefully they'll get to hear that song. They'll hear songs from the record. Maybe one or two Tony Hawk covers from previous musical.
Oh, you heard about that.
Which we can talk maybe next. When we manifest and get you here to Australia,
we'll have a chat about that. I would love that. No, thank you so much.
Jasmine, we usually end things asking our guests what they're currently listening to for yourself at the moment. Is there anything that's on high rotation?
Oh, yeah. Adrian Linker Instrumentals is the greatest piece of music ever. It's like my favorite album. I listen to it probably every day, if not like several times a day. And like, I think you can really hear its influence on my songwriting, and especially like, You Are the Morning, the title track. The like guitar solo is very much based on Music for Indigo, which is side A of Adrian Linker's Instrumentals. It's something that really got me through some of like the toughest times in my life, and I really love that record.
Absolutely incredible record by Adrian Linker. So fantastic choice. But also, not to be outdone, fantastic record by jasmine.4.t, You Are the Morning.
Thank you so much.
Of course, it is out right now, and we'll make sure that there are links in today's show notes so that people can purchase the record, follow you across your socials, and just keep up to date with tour dates. So hopefully when an Australian date is announced, that they're made aware of it as quickly as possible. But Jasmine, thank you again for coming to chat on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.